Okay, so we're gonna start with marketing, and this is nothing new. This is already in your marketing module, but I'm just gonna go in detail a little bit more, show you some examples of what are the things that you need, and perhaps be able to answer some of your questions. So this is all basic. You can watch that in the modules that are already there. But I wanted to um, talk about target buyer profile because that's very important because it depends upon where you are building and where you are developing, and you got to make sure that you've got stuff that you've got design and you've got other things happening for your development that'll make it sell off the plan really quick. And as a thumb rule, I have not done a development 200 meters away from a train station. I have never done it. Um, I think the one in Brisbane wasn't close to the train station, but it was close to. It wasn't very close to the train station, but it was well, I had a bus stand um, right in front of my development, and it was a walking distance to another TAFE. So it was really a good location. The one that I've just finished in Brisbane. The ones that I'm doing here, they're all very close to the train station, or the beach, or the school, or something somewhere. So basically, it's not like I do developments away, but somehow I just don't go more than 200 meters from the train station, and that's my rule of thumb when I'm looking for sites for development. And it could be anywhere, and I don't try and do something. That is too far away or in a suburb that is still developing, so that my marketing becomes easier and easier from that point on. So if you want to do the promotion, you've got all kinds of options available these days. But let's just go back. You can't sell anything until you've got an off the plan contract that's ready. So let's look at what do you need. The first thing that you need to get your off the plan contract ready is a preliminary plan of subdivision. And what does that look like? I'll just show you what it is. It is basically you get a preliminary plan of subdivision because the reason you need that is because this tells people what their title is going to contain, or their title is going to look like when they are done, because all titles are based upon preliminary plan of subdivision, and on the plan of subdivision or the building format plan. If you're developing apartments, it's all about it's called the building format plan rather than a plan of subdivision, but it's actually it's one and the same thing. So I'll just give you an example or show you an example of what does it look like. That's what it looks like. So that's a plan of subdivision from one of my developments that I'm doing now. This is 231 Station Street in Edithvale. This is also a preliminary plan of subdivision because I need this in order for this to become part of the off the plan contract. So nobody will sign the contract until they know what a plan until they know there's a plan of subdivision in there. So I think if you guys are part of the group, I posted a photo of a 12 townhouse development, and this is the plan of subdivision from the same development that we are getting into. So yeah, it's the bank has come back with I think they might need about 5 or 6 pre-sales. So I'll be executing all my strategies on marketing on this to get my pre-sales up and running. Get my pre-sales ready in time so we are up and running for construction ASAP. If you wanted to know what does a building format plan looks like, a building format plan looks like this. This is from my Brisbane development. These were 9 apartments. And if you look at it, what does it have? It just says base parcel area. So this is telling me this is my block. This is what we developed. That's where the 3-story concrete building went up that we developed. That's Albion Road. That's Peter Street. And if I come down here it has all these nail screw, all this thing. What these are, and when you walk down the footpath, you'll be able to see these little datum points. They're called datum points. It's like a piece of metal that's been put into the concrete, and usually surveyors use that as a datum point to measure stuff off. And this is basically all those details here. So if you go down, it'll talk about details of what's going on, who approved it, and this is where the parking is. So it's talking about garage for unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they need to know that because, for example, I've been trying to sell unit 5, and the unit 5, now I realize that if I would have made their parking somewhere here, which was about 17, because unit 5 for me is a little bit difficult to sell for whatever reason, at least they would have had like a meter square of bigger parking. So I didn't think of this when this was getting ready. This is only thinking back in my hindsight. So now when I get a plan of subdivision for something, I look at, okay, which ones are doing really bad. Like I'll say, okay, which one, the pick of the litter goes first. Everybody knows that, and the ones that will be left would be maybe unit 5, maybe unit 9, and that's where the developer's profit is, because everything else that goes up front pays for the land, pays for the construction finance, and so on. And whatever is left, usually the shittiest of the lot, is where the profit is buried. So we need to make sure that we've got to move the last one as well, most efficiently. So if I had something in this development which I could have given, but over here these are townhouses, so they've all got their own parking in the garage and so on. So there's not much I can do for unit 5, 2, or 3 to make them more attractive. But we'll do something in construction so that they have something extra, so that towards the end I am not stuck with the really bad pieces or the not so good townhouses or apartments and so on. So this is a building format plan from the 9 apartments. And if I scroll down, it just gives me common property. This is the common property. This is where the lift area, this is the stairs, this is the refuse where all the rubbish is going to be stored. All these are dictated as per the waste management plan. And then this is what these apartments would look like. So one of them, so number 7 is one of 3, number 6 is one of 4. Number 5 is actually a split apartment. That's why I've been trying to sell it ASAP. But having said that, it's one of the biggest apartments as well. And if I had a little bit extra money, I would have actually kept unit 5, because unit 5 I think is a really good unit from rental perspective. But anyway, I haven't got that much money because it's also more expensive because of the space and all that in there. So that's what a plan of subdivision looks like, and you can't have an off-the-plan contract until you've got a plan of subdivision or a preliminary plan of preliminary building format plan. The second thing that you must have in an off-the-plan contract is the owner's corporation proposal. What is that? So if you look at what is an owner corporation, is basically talking about all the common areas. So what we will be talking about here, let me just go back in this area. So all this is common property. All this up front is going to be a common property. There's going to be common power, common electricity, any kind of common. So in this area, because I've got 12 units, so these people 12 times 2 rubbish bins every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever, once a week. And if they put 24 bins out here, I'm going to have a problem. So what's happened with this common area, when the waste management report came back, actually, I'm just going to turn this around so you can see it better. So when the waste management report came back, it told us that, we'll have to have we'll have to have private waste collection. So which basically means that they've got a small little truck that moves in, picks up the rubbish bins from outside each townhouse, and then goes back, which basically means more body corporate costs for me. So all these things have to come in, have to be there so that the owner's corporation proposal can be put together. So what does that look like? So let's look at this. Owners Corporation, they would always want to have a copy of the insurance. And in that insurance, one of the biggest thing is public liability, which has to be at least 20 mil. I mean, there were days you could get away with 10 mil, but these days 20 mil is like the standard. It's like a norm that you got to have a $20 million public liability insurance. So this insurance would cover, and if there was a catastrophe insurance, and or if everything had to be built from scratch and everything was flattened, so the whole property is insured for 3.2 mil. The cost of construction is close to 2.8. Then there is 5% contingency. And then if everything was smashed and we had to flatten everything, so I've allowed another 100K for it, and I've put 3.2 mil as a replacement value for this entire development. So owner corporation will always want a copy of the insurance, that this is the insurance that we're going to get. So we get a quote. You don't need to get it insured at the time of getting off the plan contract, but you do need to have an idea of the insurance in place, because we need this amount to go in the body corporate budget. Second thing we need is the body corporate budget. What does that look like? So if you look at the body corporate, the most important thing is management fees. So you need to have a body corporate service provider or whoever can provide you these services. Then there's allowance for disbursements, insurance. So that 3820 that we saw here, now he's not gone by the quote. He's actually inflated that a little bit, which is fine, covers my backside. There's ground maintenance 2,000, common electricity, common water, waste management 4,000. He got a quote. So I don't put this budget together. This is a draft budget for owner corporation. Now you can't have a final budget because nothing is built, nothing is ready. So you need to have a draft one. So usually an owner corporation service provider will actually provide you with a draft budget. And then you've got one-off setup cost for them to set it up. So it's about 18,000. Divide that by 12. So it's about 1524. Now, because I have private waste management here. Now, if my waste management report would have said that, okay, the council is going to collect the waste, then I wouldn't have this here. And this yearly annual contribution would be a lot lower. But because I've got private waste management, that means I've got to allow it here. But that also means that the council rates would be lower for this development than higher. But I don't have to worry about the council rates because they are not included in my contract. Whoever buys them will get notified by the council post settlement. So that's what this is. So they've got some setup cost by task, whatever this is, and they put a budget together. If you were doing a development in Brisbane, they usually have what is known as a sinking fund as well, which is they've got to allow for it. And that's also a body corporate service provider would actually provide you with that as well. Now you have to remember that in Queensland, if any of this actually changes, so you put this will go as part of your disclosure statement. It's called a disclosure statement in Queensland, and in Victoria it's called a Section 32, which is also a vendor's disclosure statement. It's basically vendor disclosing what all is involved in what I'm selling. So this becomes part of that. Now you started off with budget that said, let's say $100, and by the time you were finished your development, the QS came back with another report. You got another quote for insurance. You got another quote for waste collection, and so on. And your budget had gone through the roof. Your pre-sales have an out. They can say that they suffered material prejudice, which means that this is not what they signed up for. So they can get out of the contract. And you have to be very, very careful. And I learned this the hard way. What had happened in Brisbane was I hired a company for body corporate services, and they put together a budget. The management budget, this is basically the management budget. But because they were apartments and they had to put together a sinking fund statement as well, in the sinking fund they had only allowed what, $100 an apartment, so $900. But by the time we were done and finished and all that, by the time the QS came back with another valuation and all those things, the sinking fund had actually gone from $100 per apartment to about $350 per apartment. And I was so scared because the market, the apartment market was going, maybe, maybe not. People were having doubts about the apartment market. And I had to issue what is known as a rectification statement. And what it is that your solicitor or conveyancer will send out a notice to all pre-sales telling them that this is what's happened. The sinking fund statement has now gone up from $100 per apartment to about $350 per apartment for the whole year. So the good thing was that it was for the whole year. So I actually broke it down to per week, which actually looked really small, and I managed to get it through. So once we issued that rectification statement to all your pre-sales, those pre-sales then have 14 days to come back and say, sorry, I don't want to pay that extra anymore. So that puts the developer in a very tight position because you are stuck. You didn't sell that unit to somebody else because you had already signed up a contract with this pre-sale, and now this pre-sale has an out and they won't settle. So this is very important to have right. So make sure that when you talk to your body corporate guys, whoever's doing this for you, you make sure that you tell them, am I covered? Like for this development, I've asked maybe 5 times, is this enough? Is this enough? Because if this has to be, let's say, $1,700 instead of that, I'd rather know this now rather than when I'm done, I'm dusted, everything is built, titles are issued, come time for settlement, and I find out that this is $1,700, and then it gives my it gives my pre-sales an out. This is going to be a problem for me. So you want to find this out as early as you can. Another thing that you would need for body corporate is the special rules. And what those rules are, that you could say, for example, you build a beautiful apartment building and everyone's got a balcony, and the units in the front that face the street or so on, they hang their laundry outside to dry, which doesn't look really good. So you could put that in those rules that might no drying of undies in your balcony, for example. So all those kind of rules, kind of behavior, acceptable behavior, or living in that area, in that development, moving, vacating, what do you do then? Interference, damage and repairs. If you back your car into someone else's garage door, you've got to fix it. All these things, whatever it is, they then become part of body corporate. That everyone who lives in this development, in these 12 townhouses, or in this apartment building, has to comply with those rules. So those rules have to be part of your off the plan contract. The third thing that you need in order to get your off the plan contract ready is your architectural drawings. And you could also include floor plans, or you could include elevations. Architectural drawings are fine, but those architectural drawings have to be endorsed drawings. So if I wanted to show you what it is, endorsement means that the council's actually stamped them, and they take a long time to do that. And that's why, for example, with my 12 townhouse development that I'm doing, I'm ready with everything. I've got my renders, I've got the floor plans, I've even got working drawings. What I don't have is endorsed drawings. And what are endorsed drawings? Council, when they issue a permit or a DA or whatever, it comes with some conditions that you might to incorporate in your plans. So you revise your plans based on the conditions put in by the council. It could be better setbacks. It could be reduce the size of the balcony, or reduce the size of this front yard, or make this garage a little bit bigger, or do this, and so on. So you have to revise. They've issued you the permit, but you got to revise all the drawings, incorporate what the council is saying, and then resubmit them to the council. Whoops, sorry. Wow. Just got a message from my business partner. Liberals now have 77 seats, so congratulations whoever voted for Liberal. I know I did. So, yeah, just going off track a little bit. So when you resubmit them to council, they take their time and then they stamp everything. So the color schedule, this is for the outside, for the exterior, what it's going to look like. They will give you all those. They'll give you the endorsed town planning letter saying construction of four. This is for my 4 townhouse development that's just about to finish. I think we'll have the title in the next couple of weeks. And that's what it looks like. But you will see that every drawing is then stamped. That means I can't change that drawing without getting council's approval. So when you do your off the plan contract, you must have endorsed drawings. And what happens if you don't have endorsed drawings and you really want to rush things in? Of course you can. You can sell somebody an off the plan contract, and you put town planning drawings, but they are not endorsed, which basically means they are subject to changes. So 2 things can happen. One, if you change, even move or reduce or do whatever to a wall or a floor space or a footprint or something, even if you do a minor change to it, that pre-sale has an out. And the pre-sale can say, "Oops, sorry, mate, I didn't sign up for this." So then that's a problem. Second, anytime why are you getting pre-sales? The reason you're getting pre-sales is so you can get your construction finance. So you go and get a pre-sale that is not based on endorsed drawings. You go to your bank and the bank says, "Okay, here's the 10% deposit from the pre-sale. There it is." So the bank's going to say, "Okay, go back to your lawyer and ask your lawyer to certify that sale." So what that lawyer needs to do is certify that it was sold to a non-resident, for example. It is sold to a person that is at an arm's length from the developer. It is sold to a person, like they get a list of, they get a checklist from the bank that the solicitor has to then tick. Okay, that's this pre-sale complies with this. So this pre-sale has a sunset clause of 36 months. This pre-sale cannot get out just like that. So the moment it'll come to that portion where what are the chances of this pre-sale getting out, the solicitor is not going to sign that because the solicitor knows that it's not endorsed drawings. So that's when you'll hit a snag. And I've been trying to get this 12 townhouse project on the market ASAP, but unfortunately I've got to wait for another 3 weeks to get these endorsed drawings so I can get my off the plan contract ready to start marketing. Until then, all it has is a board on the side and expression of interest, so that people know what's coming there. So that's why you need to have those endorsed drawings. So always remember that. Floor plans, you can also include what is known as a marketing floor plan. So this is a marketing floor plan. This is basically a simplified version of all the architectural hoo-ha, jargon, drawings, numbers, scales, everything else that there is on the architectural plan. So someone who is trying to buy this, they look at the marketing floor plan, this is what it looks like. So they look at it, okay, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, two garage, and then you've got 1 townhouse. And that's the floor plan. And in the whole development, that's unit 1. So you can include all of these. For marketing, we use these. We don't give people the detailed working drawings or anything else, because working drawings I can tweak a little bit, so long as the main floor plan looks similar to this. Working drawings are basically a lot more detailed. Another thing that you need in order for this plan to go ahead is a list of inclusions, fixtures and fittings and material specification, and you got to provide any inclusions you are providing to the purchaser in the apartment. So basically you are specifying, okay, we're going to use Miele appliances, I'm going to use 40 millimeter stone bench tops, I'm going to use this flooring, I'm going to use that kind of tiles in the bathroom, and all those details. So what does that look like? If you look at all your inclusions, I'll show you something from my Fitzroy development. This is the Fitzroy development. We did a marketing book on this. If you ever come to my office, we've got a hard copy of this and we can show it to you. So what does that look like? That's what, I mean, that's a marketing book. We're trying to create an ambience of what this area is like. So these are just mood shots done from the street and in the nearby cafe, and what's available, the kind of lifestyle this suburb offers, and so on. It talks about gives a little bit of an introduction about what the architects are like. So I'm just gonna, I'm just trying to zoom in a little bit so you can have a better look. So this is the development that they're doing right next to us. So they put that in there. That's my development. That's what the render actually look like. I've actually sold this development and now gone into the 12 townhouse development instead of the 16 apartment development, because I want to run away from apartments. Yeah, and this is the atrium. This is the gap between the apartments. That's what it was going to be developed into. So we had the renders done, but I'll show you what this is again the floor plan. So this is telling them that there's a car stacker there, and that's what the floor plate looks like. So I'll just quickly go down to finishes and fixtures. That's what we were talking about. So in that, when you're trying to market this, and especially if you're marketing something, a high-end product, you would want to tell people that, you know, soft planting, what it's going to be, planter boxes, floor crazy paving, then you've got walls and ceiling, walls, brickwork, the hit and miss brickwork, what you're going to do. So you try and give them details about all these things so that they can sort of try and visualize. And basically all these renders that we saw up here include those things, because we've already specified that, but you got to give it to them. And these have to become part of the contract so that you know. But when I do something like this, I try and keep it very simple. And the reason for that is I don't, so that when it becomes part of the contract, part of the off the plan contract, I keep it very simple because it gives me room to move around. And if I am very detailed that I'm going to use 4 millimeter screws and 40 millimeter this and this, that, and so on, then if while building, I can't provide that, and for some reason there's a shortage of that kind of flooring that I've mentioned, then I'm stuck. Because then I have to go and ask them, can you do this? And that basically is telling them you have an out. And I don't want to give my pre-sales an out. So those are the things. So under roofing, you've got metal roofing, walls, ground floor, the kind of walls, windows that we're going to use. And now all I've said is powder coated aluminum windows. I don't want to say which make they are. I don't want to say what else is there. But as long as they are going to be powder coated and they're going to be aluminum, I should be fine. So that's what I'm telling them. And we say balcony balustrating, glass balustrating, or slat screen as per architectural drawings and town planning. So this is what we put in so that it is all basic and generic so that it doesn't come back to bite us later on. So MBA member, which is Master Builders Association, 6-year structural warranty, 6-month builders maintenance period, and 6-star energy rating. This is what we give. Hot water system, instantaneous gas hot water system, and so on. So That's another way of doing it. This is basically a very generic inclusion list. And for all my townhouse projects, I keep it that simple because it's easier and I can move around. But if you wanted to get into more details, you could provide photos. So if you're doing a marketing book, you can provide photos like in Fitzroy. In this 16 apartment development right in the city, we were doing Miele appliances, we were doing undermount sink, stainless steel, optional upgrade. They could upgrade to an built-in electric oven. This is what the taps were gonna look like, and so basically, I give them a photo and a snapshot of the things that I'm gonna put in. And there's an optional upgrade. They could get like a optional aged brass look on all the sanitary ware. So aged brass look is, if I go back up and I look at my renders, I just wanted to show you what it looked like. Where's the bathroom gone? So so when you do your renders, you actually upgrade everything and you show the best. You basically put your best foot forward. So this is like an aged brass look, and we were giving it to them as an optional upgrade. So that's what it would have looked like. But we decided to sell the project as is, and we got out of it. So you need all of these things in order to get an off the plan contract ready. These are the basic things that you need. Another thing that you need a copy of your planning permit or DA. If you've got a demolition permit, you throw it in. If you've got a building permit, you throw it in. But you don't have to have a building permit. It is only if it's available. You got to tell them what's your proposed sunset clause is going to be. A sunset clause is basically, let's say a builder tells you that it's going to take him 12 months to build from the time they start. So you sign the contract, but the construction doesn't start for another 6 months, for example. Now, if you put your sunset clause at just 12 months, that means they you need to deliver your project to them within 12 months. So sunset clause always, as a thumb rule, must be at least three times the time that the building time is going to be. So if it's 12 months to build a project, I put my sunset clause as 36 months. In some cases, I put as 5 years. So say for example, for whatever reason, something happens and something gets delayed. The project can't be built. I can't find funding. I can't find the pre-sales. Let's say I get one pre-sale and I can't get any more pre-sales for another 7 months. For whatever reason, the market takes a dive, whatever. That one pre-sale can't get out for 5 years. You know what I mean? So if they've signed the contract, so that's a sunset clause. And the banks like to see a minimum of 3 years of sunset clause. So basically, you sign the contract today, and if for whatever reason the builder or the developer gets delayed in building and finishing the project for another 3 years, they can't get out of the contract. They can only get out of the contract after that 3 year or that sunset clause period is over. And if by that time the project still isn't delivered. And you might be thinking, so what happens to the 10% deposit? That 10% deposit that they've paid stays in the trust account and gets invested. So your solicitor, whoever's holding that deposit that in their trust account, will, with your permission, put that money into a fixed deposit scheme or whatever. And for 3 years, for example, you didn't build or whatever, that 10% deposit actually makes money on that. And whether or not you keep that money, that interest, or whether they keep it, is negotiable, and you have to put it in your contract. So you need to tell them who's gonna be benefiting from that. So usually, to keep to put the purchaser at rest, we say, okay, you guys keep it. And we had I think two or three of our deposits for the Brisbane project were invested for 12 months or so, and they sorry, and they got the interest on it. So basically, whatever interest they made, they actually reduce it from the settlement amount. So it can be done. Then you've got development advertising brochures. The advertising brochures could be the marketing book that I've just showed you. In your off-the-plan purchase contract, you would also need important details like name of the entity that's going to do the development, ABN, registered office. You would also need whoever your solicitor is going to be, who will be representing you. You'll have to specify them 5% deposit or 10% deposit. If you're going for pre-sales, I'm pretty sure your lender would want 10% deposit, especially if you're dealing with top 4 banks. They will not accept anything less than 5%. If you got more than one director, then you've got to have, it is recommended that you arrange a corporate power of attorney to be prepared to enable one director or secretary to execute the documentation. So let's say 4 friends get together, you get together with 4 of your different friends and you're doing a 4 townhouse development. Every time an off-the-plan contract is signed, you don't want that contract circulating to 4 different people. And one of you could be in a different state. For example, the Brisbane project that I did, it was always 2 to sign for anything, but for the bank, any one of us could pay the bills and so on by letting the other person know. And every time we signed an off-the-plan contract, it came to me. Then I sent it to Gary in Bundaberg, and then Gary sent it to another person, sent it back to the lawyer. So by the time the sale was actually signed, it was at least a week, 2 weeks, and you don't want that. And anytime I do a project like that, which is interstate or anything, I'll be careful of that. But because I got into this project in 2013, and I didn't know any better at the time, so now I know that this is how it works. So that's what it is. So things to plan and consider. It's if you are to the market. Okay, this is the stamp duty savings. Now this only applies to people from Victoria, and I see there's only one person from Victoria attending this webinar today. So and he's one of my mentoring students, and I can explain that to him, so you guys don't have to worry about it. What happens in Victoria is that you get off the plan savings. So if you buy something today, I'll just quickly show you what it looks like, just so you know. Just give me 1 second. I'm not planning on showing this to you, but I am going to show it to you anyway. So if you do an off-the-plan contract when the construction hasn't started, the State Revenue Office has a different formula to do stamp duty calculations. So I'll just let it load. I don't know why it's doing that. So they've got a formula where they say, okay, you bought the block for 900,000. What was the size of? So this is in case of Fitzroy, for example. So if somebody bought this off the plan, their stamp duty was only 3,000 for unit 1. It was 3,772, 4,129. But it's not like anybody can calculate this whatever way they feel like or by a percentage. So State Revenue Office has different formulas for doing this, and you have to follow those formulas, because what is known as a section in Victoria, it's called Form 4A. You got to fill that out, and that basically is this Excel spreadsheet. So I've already got a spreadsheet, and the reason I put this together before off the plan marketing. Now you won't need to do this declaration until you're ready to settle, but I put this together at the start of the project. The reason is it helps me sell them, because I give a copy of this to my marketing guy and I tell them, use this, because show it to them that their stamp duty liability, if they sign the contract now, because the construction has, see it says construction incomplete, which is 100% is incomplete at that time. So that's it's only 3,772 if they sign the contract now. So if, for example, they signed and I had already started construction and 20% of that was complete, that means 80% was incomplete, their stamp duty will be 8,397.21. So you got to have this calculation in place so that whenever you sign a contract with whatever pre-sale at whatever time, you know. And how do you know that this construction is complete 80% or 20% or whatever? This is determined by your progress claim status. So there's no escaping. There's no shonky stuff that we do or you should do, or I wouldn't encourage, because it doesn't pay in the long run. So so all this has to be calculated. Now, so this only applies to people who are from Victoria. So your special condition will need to stipulate, if you wish to invest the deposit on behalf of the purchaser. This is what I've already told you. In Victoria, you will also need to provide throughout the transaction the Council Form 8 as to street allocation and identification of each lot or building permit issuing. Don't worry about this. This is basically us telling the council, which is section 173, which basically says that I am going to build exactly what you've approved. I'm not going to change anything, just to get the titles early. If you will require the purchaser to reimburse you for any connection fees, I've got to put that in now. Now, this is, again, I learned it the hard way. It cost me $8,500 to get electricity connected to each unit in Brisbane. And it was $700 for each unit, and then for some units it was 900 something, and I couldn't claim it back. But if I would have put that in my off the plan contract before, then yes, I will be collecting all these connection charges will be collected for every unit, because you get a bill from Origin Energy, for example, for every unit. And and either you absorb it or you pass that cost on to the people who are buying. And this time, with the 12 townhouses, I'm going to pass that cost on to the person who was buying this. So you will have titles office lodging fees, other mortgage fees, and so on. There is land tax payable, and you wish for this to be adjusted also for the purchaser. Yes, so say for example, my land tax calculation land tax is calculated based on where you are or who owns the property on 31st of December every year. And let's say my settlements happen sometime in August, but I got the land tax assessment notice sometime in July, and I paid for till the next December. So let's say I ended up paying for 5 months more after the sale is actually going to settle. So that adjustment needs to be made. So I need to inform that in my off the plan contract. So don't let this thing bog you down. It's not a lot. Now it's just become second nature. The first time I did it, I shit myself because it was just too many things to take care of and worry about. But once you've done it once, twice, thrice, I think after that it just becomes second nature to you of what these things are. And then you got all sorts of lawyers' fee, preparing application for plan of subdivision. The lawyer doesn't do that. I usually get it done through my surveyor. Preparing for master contract of sale, special conditions. So you'll have to pay the lawyer fees for all of that. Now, if you went to the marketing agent checklist, this is what the marketing agency would require from you. Now, they will keep asking you all these things. They'll ask you the developer name, the development contact details. If the developer's got a website where you can show this is what they've done in the past. Because if someone's buying off the plan contract, it's like you are trying to buy a big asset, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you don't know what it looks like. And you're basing all your decisions on the plans and the renders and the inclusion list that you can see. So you're not going to know. So it is difficult. It is difficult to buy off the plan. But people do that. And not only that, the banks force this on people. The banks actually force this to developers and everybody to mitigate their own risk in order to do that. So they want to know the credibility of the builder. So now if this is your first time doing this, you can leverage off the credibility of the builder who's going to build this. Now you could be a new developer, and I was one. Don't get me. I didn't start, and I didn't have all the stars to show off. When I started, I was nothing, but I knew this, that whoever's buying this off the plan would want to know who's developing this and who's building this. So what I did was I borrowed this credibility off the builder. So the builder I hired wasn't someone that nobody knew. He was a really famous builder. Everybody knew who he was. Everybody knew that they could deliver projects. Everybody knew that they turned over 180 million a year. So that gave me a lot of credibility. So when they look at it, they say, okay, XYZ developers, oh, I've never heard of them. Okay, but who's gonna build this? Bloomers Construction. I've seen them. I've seen their board everywhere. So they get this credibility that the job would be finished. And not only that, when you're doing it for the first time, you leverage this off a credible builder. Even the banks like it better. So the banks the first time I did it, the problem is the bank's gonna look at you and say, oh, what experience have you got in this? You're good doing this. But you know what? You gotta start somewhere. So that's why the first one and the second one are gonna be, the first one the hardest, second one a little bit harder, and it starts getting easier and easier and easier, to a point where to a point you just become a magnet. This stuff comes to you and it just keeps happening, and there's no worrying, there's basically no stress after a while. But the first one, that's why the people trying to do it for the first time, having a mentor actually helps them, because it can be very unnerving when you're doing it for the first time. So they would want to know the details of the architect, the owner corporation estimate. So what this is everything that I showed you that you need for owner corporation. They would want to know who the builder is, and so I've already put that in. If you watch the marketing videos, you'll find out that this is important. So then you've got expected construction commencement completion, because the agent needs to know all this information. Otherwise, he or she can't sell your product. So they would want to know the contract terms, same things that they will ask for. Are you using margin scheme? Because all the contracts have a box. In Victoria, all contracts have a box whether or not margin scheme applies. So you put margin scheme on that box, and that means margin scheme applies. So if you don't know what margin scheme is, you should go and watch the financial feasibility videos, and I discuss that in there. And the agent's going to ask you again, what are the fixtures and fittings and kitchen bathroom vanity details? Are they going to be stone bench tops, details of the joinery? For example, if you use an island bench and so on, you've got range hood, dishwasher, all those things. So other things you could be talking about: bicycle storage facility, construction materials. I actually wanted to show you another thing. Just give me 1 second. I had actually put it together. So this is a material board. This is actually a photograph of a material board. So what it is that we've stuck a sample of the wooden floor, of the tile that we're going to use. So we've numbered them 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it tells them they are a sample of kitchen base cabinets, kitchen overhead cabinet, excuse me, external tiles, bathroom floor tiles, and what they are. So I give this board to the agent, so that the agent can show it to them and they can touch and feel it to get an idea of what it looks like and what we are building. So just to get an idea of that. So floors, any kind of party wall construction, window glazing, laminate or double glazing, ceiling height, balcony detail, kitchen bathroom venting, all these details have to be told and conveyed to your agent so they can market it for you. Developer and builder's previous completed project. So if you haven't got a project that you've completed before, doesn't matter. Leverage it off the builder that you are using, or leverage it off the mentor that you are using, so that you can show them, yeah, we've done all these projects, so this guy's looking over my shoulder. and so on. So contract of sale and disclosure statement or section 32 is exactly the same. So these are the things that you need in order to put your off the plan contract ready and get it going. When it comes to marketing, you've got all sorts of things that are available for you these days. So I'm just going to quickly run you through all of them. Let's have a look at this. So when you go and get your 3D artist impressions, you've got exterior render, front, side. What are you going to use? All those things are important. And when you are using them, you show them something like this. So you show them the plan, the floor plan, and then you say, okay, I'll be standing here and I'll be taking a shot from there that shows the dining and it shows the backyard a little bit. So I'll be in the living area, I'll be taking a shot, like the render is going to be prepared by standing here and looking that way and looking at the living and the kitchen area, so you've got all this view. Then at the bathroom, I'm going to stand and take a shot so I can see the sink, I can see the toilet, and I can see the bathtub. And in the bedroom, I'm going to be standing here right at the door and looking this way so that I can see the window, this is the window, and I can see the bed laid out here, so that's what it looks like. So you'll have to tell the company this is what the camera angles are going to be. And you've got to tell them that's the shot you need. Interior render, living, bathroom, commercial common area if you're doing a commercial development. Marketing floor plans, I've already showed you what they look like. So let's go back and have a look at them again. So these are the marketing floor plans. So if you want them, you can individual floor plan or typical unit floor plan, all those things. Material board, I've shown you a photograph of the material board that you can put together. Then you've got interior design, schedule of interior fixtures and finishes, joinery drawings. Joinery drawings is basically you need to go to a joinery supplier, or you need to go to an interior designer who can do joinery drawings. Or you can ask your architect, can you do joinery drawings as well? Usually architects don't. Some architects do, but they charge you an arm and a leg. But interior designers can put all this together. They can even put the internal color schemes and all those things together as well. So if you wanted them to brand your development, this is going a bit hoo-ha with the development. I think these companies charge an arm and a leg. I spent $50,000 on advertising, and all I got for $50,000, boys and girls, is I'll just show you that marketing book. I showed you the marketing book earlier. This is $50,000. And in those $50,000, they did these renders. I paid the renders separately actually. All they did was this. So whoever this architect was, I'm never going to use them again. So they just ripped us off. But anyway, I got ripped off, and I'm telling you now so that you don't get ripped off. Publication design, any kind of brochure or leaflet or sales manual, copywriting. So all the fluff they talk about right next to all the mood shots, because of this and that and whatever. I can't even talk that fluff. So all that fluff that they do is called copywriting, and they charge you separately for it. Stock image, which is basically lifestyle photography to give an ambience, to create an ambience of the area. Website, if you create a dedicated website for that, they can do that. Any kind of display suite or exhibition signage, wall graphic, pull-up banner, hoarding banner, all these things. Advertising, if you want to do and press ad and all that, they will do that for you. Promotional item, any kind of carry bag, folder, USB, videography, 3D, drone filming. I do have a person that I know, and they do drone views. I can actually show you one. I like them because that gives the purchaser a really good idea of what the total area is, what the area is about. I'll just quickly pull one out and show you. It's really good. It creates a lot of it basically creates a lot of interest. So this is the Four Towers development here. So that's what it looks like. So that's the 360-degree view from a drone. So it's right next to the beach. This is in Chelsea. So it tells people that they've really got something, a good product. It's a good location, and when they see the drone view, it's pretty good. So people are walking. This is the Chelsea beach, and once it completes the 360-degree view, it'll show that this is the house that we took down and put this together. I got another one done which was basically from the actual site, but because it wasn't from the actual balcony, I didn't want to put it use it in advertising, because then it could be misrepresentation. People might look at this and say, oh, this is the view from my balcony. No, it's not, because this is quite high up, but it is actually above the site. So we decided not to use this one. So you can spend as much money as you want. Usually you can expect to spend around 1% of your total GRV. So if your total GRV of the project is about 7 mil, if you spend 70,000, you can really sell them really, really well. But I don't spend 70,000 for a lot of stuff that I know that I've already got from previous projects. What we really need to spend, what we don't need to spend on. So we try and strike a balance between cost effectiveness and good marketing. So that's what you will need to do as well. So we've got 2 more minutes, and I'd really appreciate some feedback, or anybody would want to ask me some questions. That'll be great. Guys, I'm actually planning a seminar towards the end of the year. I've told this to you a few times. I'm actually posting 14 videos, like 1 video every week. And it goes on my Facebook page. If you've liked it, it should come to you. So it just talks about different modules, doesn't really give people a lot of contact, but it tells them this is what you need to know in order to do this. So I'd really appreciate if you could like the video or share the video and spread the word, especially if you think that what I teach is good, and what I teach is valuable. I'd really appreciate that, and I'd really appreciate you asking me more questions today. Any questions at all? Okay, one question. I think, Elena, it didn't come out complete. It just says, "Have you heard about?" It doesn't. It didn't come. I think the sentence didn't get completed. Yes, I've heard about the 2-part contract. A 2-part contract. The way that works is, I think Bayland uses 2-part contracts, and it's a messy thing to do. I would not suggest that you do that as a developer. If you are a developer and a builder, you can do that, but I wouldn't suggest that you do a 2-part contract. What a 2-part contract is basically, you go and get your plan of subdivision, and once you've got your plan of subdivision, and you go and get your titles, and you do a section 173 with the council saying that we will build exactly what it is, and then you sell the land. So you basically subdivide everything, get the titles, and then you, instead of selling the full townhouse, you sell a townhouse and land package. If you know what I mean, that's a 2-part contract, and it's good for the builder and developer, because they've actually recouped the cost for construction. The cost for their land upfront. But the problem comes in when you've got the same party wall between the townhouses, and you've sold one, but you haven't sold one right next to it. Then how do you build that thing? Because you got to start building it. So that's the thing. So yeah, so I think it's a messy thing to do. Something like 3 or 4 townhouses that I know they're gonna move really fast in a hot market. I would give it a try. But apart from that, I would stay away from it, because for me to start construction, I've got to have all of them sold, because otherwise I can't start construction. So doing a two-part contract is a little bit dodgy. Not dodgy, but it's a little bit complicated. Would anybody else would like to ask me any more questions? Okay, hi, Amber. There's a lot of negative press around recently about apartment oversupply. Do you heighten your due diligence in this environment for a greater margin and safety? Absolutely. But Ken, you got to remember that I don't want you to get into apartments. I don't want any of my students to get into apartments as of now. The reason is the market's a little bit of flooded and all that. And not only that, the first development, I see apartments is a little bit complicated. It's a little bit more, requires a lot more than a townhouse development, because you get all sorts of other engineers and all sorts of other consultants and professionals involved, like acoustic guy comes in, the fire engineer comes in. There's so many different other things that kick in as soon as you get into an apartment development. So it's like learning boxing. So when you are a new kid on the block and you want to learn how to go and win fights in boxing, your coach will always take you to a fight that you can easily win in the first round, because that gives you confidence to go and do a better, more difficult fight. So it's the same with property development. I would rather you do a 4 townhouse project rather than go and start doing a 9 apartment development. And now, um, I I actually got into an apartment development. My apartment development was my first development, but you have to see, I got into that project early 2013, and I'm only finishing it now. So it took what, 13, 14, 15, 3.5 years almost. It actually took almost 3 years, actually, because I didn't settle on it for another 6 months, even when I was in the project. So it took me 3 years to finish one apartment development. Now, during that time, I had 4 other developments that I have done, dusted, completed. Now I'm on my 7th development now, and the first one is only finishing now. On 6th of July, I had my last settlement for all the pre-sales, and now I'm just trying to wrap it up. 6 months later, I've got to pay off the builder, their retention clause and everything. So I'm just doing some housekeeping to finish that project. But look at it this way. It took me 3 years to finish one apartment project. In the meanwhile, I did a no money down deal. In the meantime, I did 2 townhouses, 3 townhouses, 4 townhouses. I'm getting into 12 townhouses, another 6 townhouses for another project. So townhouses are a lot easier to do and turn over. Second, because there's so much negative media about apartment oversupply and so on, people would be wary to get into that project. So, and not only that, people would want more townhouses at this stage, rather than just apartments. So that's the reason I would say don't get into it now. But by the time the next boom comes on, that's the time to get into apartments, because again they will fly off the shelf again, or when this oversupply is absorbed. But I do not believe that because of the oversupply of apartments, the price for townhouses will go down, because you have to think of it this way: who is buying the apartments? I'm pretty sure that, and no one listening to this is buying apartments. You might be thinking of developing one, but I don't think you'll buy one yourself. So it's mainly overseas investors, or it's mainly investors trying to buy this. Now they've got too many of these. So, but look at it this way: it's not like people who want to live in a house or a townhouse will never go and buy apartments. So even if there is a glut of apartments, that doesn't mean that it's going to crash the price for all the townhouses or the houses, because people would still want to live in a house. People would still want to live in a townhouse. So I'm not worried about the glut in town in apartments, but I wouldn't myself go and do an apartment project, not for another couple of years. So but I've just gone into a 12 townhouse project. I've just signed another contract this month, and the settlement will be in 9 months' time, and that is for a 6 townhouse project. It hasn't got a permit, so I've got to go and get a permit for that. But and it is so straightforward that you do a fixed price contract with the builder, is done, dusted, finished, not a lot to do, and it gives you confidence and it gives you a taste for the money. And when you've got the taste for the money, that's when you go and you do it again and you do it again. Now you might say, "Gosh, that was difficult," but then towards the end you can wipe your tears away with the $100 bills that you've made. Okay, how much roughly as a thumb of rule you would spend on marketing per townhouse? It's not about per townhouse. In the feasibility, I allow whatever I need to give to the agent, and then, for example, something like this, the 12 townhouse project that we are doing, I've spent maybe $3,000 on the renders, about $3,200 on the renders, and that's it. I mean, I would have to get the off the plan contracts done by the lawyer anyway. I have to get the plan of subdivision. I have to get the owner corporation stuff. Doesn't cost you anything because all those costs will come in when the owner corporation is all established, and it's at the time of settlement. So it doesn't cost you anything. And what else is there? I don't think I'll spend any other money. I got these marketing floor plans. I would spend money on listing, which is $1,600 or something, and you get a listing for 45 days. Then I would spend money on the board that goes outside the site. I want to spend good money on that because I want a really good big board that's visible. So that's pretty much it. I've spent $3,000 across 12 townhouses, so that's not bad. But at the same time, when I was trying to sell a different product, which were these expensive high-end apartments, it cost me $50,000 there, and that was a mistake. And I kept telling my partner, "This is a mistake. I don't like this. I don't like this." But we had no choice. We had already signed the fee proposal and all those things, and we were committed to them, so we just had to keep bleeding money. In the hindsight, even in Fitzroy, if we would have made some decisions earlier, we made those decisions a little bit later, and that decision was basically to sell the project with plans and permit. We would have saved another $70K on the project, but we took that decision very late because right till the end we were gonna build this. We were gonna do this project ourselves. It was a very good project. Everything was great, but things happen. You live and you learn. So, any other questions? Anybody? I'll be happy to answer them. All right, then I think that's my time for today, and we will catch up next month. I wish you guys all the very best.